we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
Now, back to the After Practice Podcast with Lake Lewis.
Welcome to another edition of the After Practice Podcast with myself, Lake Lewis. I appreciate you joining me as I always do. We've got a good one coming up for you here shortly. We're going to break down the top 10 Washington Commanders. That's right, folks. I did a list of my top 10 Commanders, and I incorporated some of the new free agent signings. Obviously, you can't put them ahead of some of the guys who've been here and played, but we're going to try to sprinkle it in there and see what we can come up with. But I do have 10, and I'm going to do it in order from the 10th ranked player up to the number one player for the Washington Commanders, who I consider to be the face of the Commanders. So we'll find out who they are shortly. As always, you can follow me on all social media platforms at Lake Lewis Jr. That's on X, which is formerly Twitter, on Instagram and Facebook. So once again, it's Lake Lewis Jr. And then you can go to our website. We've got a lot of great articles up there from myself and some of my colleagues who do a wonderful job for sportsjourney.com. So again, you can go there and check out some of the work that we have on display. If you want to subscribe to this podcast, very simple. You can subscribe to the podcast on pretty much any major audio carrier, such as Apple, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, to name a few. We're on there. Google, Amazon Music, it's all on there. So all you have to do is go to those platforms and look up the After Practice Podcast with Lake Lewis, and you'll see my face up there, and go ahead and subscribe. We're getting a lot of subscribers of late, and I definitely appreciate the support and continued encouragement that I get all the time to give you some podcasts. So hopefully today you'll like this one as well. You can also subscribe to the podcast if you want to watch it. That's right, folks. You can go to YouTube and look up the Sports Journey Com channel, and the After Practice Podcast is right there for you to subscribe under the Sports Journey Com channel. And then you can go to sportsjourney.com again and watch this. So lots of ways that get you this podcast. And again, appreciate all the support that we have out there. We've got to plug a couple sponsors who help keep this thing powered, and they're the good folks over at Thermopack. They've got an innovative mouth guard, and that mouth guard is going to change the game for a lot of players out there. It actually will read your temperature, and if you're having one of those games or you're feeling warm, you'll be able to look at the color of the mouth guard. It'll tell you exactly what your temperature, your body temperature is. And on top of that, it helps prevent concussions as well. So it's a 2-for-1 mouth guard. All you have to do is go to thermopack.com and see what this innovative product is. And then, of course, we've got the good people over at Sideline Prep. Sideline Prep helps you become a professional cheerleader. If that's something that you're interested in, you can go to sidelineprep.com and see how they prepare you as far as mentally, as far as your nutrition, and as far as even your wardrobe. They do everything to help you become a professional cheerleader. And then we've got the good people over at Chill Skins. Chill Skins is an innovative towel, and they have headbands now and headgear, but the towels are something that, trust me, I've used them, as I've said many times on this show, I've used them frequently in warm weather. Just did it in St. Thomas on my vacation. All you have to do is actually put water on the towel, and it actually will cool you off, and it stays that way for several hours. No gimmicks there. You can go to chillskins.com, and we even have a promo code on sportsjourney.com if you're interested in buying one of those towels. So this one was a little different for me. You know, obviously there's big news that happened today because Jaden Daniels was in the building out in Ashburn. And I think that a lot of people, including myself, I think Jaden Daniels is going to be the pick for the Washington Commanders at number 2. I've said that for the past 3 months since the season ended for college football. I pretty much, thought that if Washington wasn't going to make a move to trade up to get Caleb Williams, who happens to be from D.C., I thought the next best option for them would be to draft Jaden Daniels out of LSU, the Heisman Trophy winner. And I still think that that's what's going to happen. I know some people think that they're going to take Drake May, who will be in Washington on Wednesday, actually tomorrow and Wednesday. Jaden Daniels wraps up his visit tomorrow. So he was there today, wraps up tomorrow, and then they bring in Drake May. So it's getting down to crunch time. I think J.J. McCarthy's going to have a visit as well. I don't think J.J. McCarthy's going to be in their plans. I think seriously bodes well if you're a Jaden Daniels or Drake May fan, because I think they're going to take one of those two quarterbacks. I pretty much, from the people I've spoken with and what I'm thinking and hearing, is that it's going to be Jaden Daniels. So I'd be surprised, frankly, if it's not Jaden Daniels. I think maybe his visit in the building is to pretty much make sure his personality solidifies what they're looking for, because his game on the field is definitely something that this team could use. They need explosive playmakers and guys that can make plays, get in the end zone, cause turnovers on defense. And they need guys that are respected around the league. And I mean that sincerely, where they have a body of work that's, maybe not just one Pro Bowl, but multiple Pro Bowls, maybe a couple all-pro teams on there. So I say that because that's what I had to come up with my list of 10 commanders. And it wasn't easy. I mean, naturally, there are 4 or 5 players that have, played in the burgundy and gold. And they've actually played for this team. Not some of the free agent signings, which are on my list that I'll talk about, but I mean guys that have suited up for Washington over the past several seasons. And for me, those guys were really high on my list because I've seen their body of work right in front of my own eyes covering this team. The free agent signings that I have on this list is because of what I saw them doing against Washington over the years and having covered them too. So without further ado, we're going to start from 10, counting down to number 1, and we'll find out who the top Washington commander is. All right, so number 10 on the list. Should not surprise you at all that number 10 on my list happens to be a punter. That's right. I have Tress Way as the number 10 Washington commander. And listen, folks, I know some of you are going to say, Tress Way should be higher. He's been their most consistent, if not outside of, who my number 1 is. But Tress Way has been one of the most consistent Washington commanders / formerly Washington Redskins. But we're talking about a punter. And take nothing away from Tress. Great guy, one of the best guys to interview as well. But you can't have your punter be your ultimate weapon if you're going to win football games in the NFL. So for me, I have Tress Way at number 10. It was almost a tie at number 10 because the person that I was going to put at number 10 was Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz, yes, Zach Ertz is getting up there in age now, but I think that was a big signing for the Washington Commanders to sign him away from the Arizona Cardinals, where he played last year. And we all know Zach Ertz was a longtime Philadelphia Eagle. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler while he was in Philadelphia, and he was a nemesis for the Washington defense, constantly wreaking havoc over the middle against these guys. But Zach Ertz, to me, would fall out of that top 10 for right now at this point in his career. Still big signing. I expect big things from Zach Ertz, but I had him at number 11. I had Tress Way at number 10. Number 9, surprisingly to some people, but yes, I'm putting him on there because before he was injured last year, this guy had the ultimate value for a football team. Great locker room guy, just a hard-nosed player, guy that's worked his tail off to get everything that he had coming his way. And he was a first-team All-Pro special teams guy. And I'm talking about safety Jeremy Reeves, the super special teams player as well. So I have Jeremy Reeves at number 9. All right, here we go. What are we waiting for? Number 8 on the list. I have running back Austin Eckler, a free agent signing, yes, coming over from from the Los Angeles Chargers. When you're old as me, you remember the San Diego Chargers. But coming over from the Los Angeles Chargers, I think Austin Eckler was a huge move for Washington. I don't think he's going to be your starting running back. I still think that's Brian Robinson Jr., but I think Austin Eckler will help Brian Robinson Jr. tremendously, and he gives them a nice bonus 1-2 punch. And let's face it, this guy knows the end zone. He's a special teams guy at times, but more importantly, he's a red zone guy. He's a guy that when you're inside the 20-yard line, you have to look for Austin Eckler because he has a nose for the end zone. And that's something that the Washington Commanders offense has been devoid of over the years, is producing within the red zone. So Austin Eckler will definitely be a guy that can help the Washington Commanders in that regard. So I have Austin Eckler at number 8. All right, on the list now at number 7, I just mentioned him right before Austin Eckler, and that's Brian Robinson Jr. He's an ascending running back. I think that he's a guy that last year should have touched the ball a lot more. He didn't for whatever reasons, and they've moved on from that. But Brian Robinson is a guy that I think as the game goes on, if he can get a good lather, if he can be a guy that, you can feed the ball as the third and fourth quarters come around, he can be a weapon for this offense, and I think they will utilize his true assets this year the way we saw him at Alabama and when he was in college and he was a sledgehammer. I think that they're going to utilize him really effectively, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. So Brian Robinson, for me, right now, is going into his third NFL campaign. I have Brian Robinson as the number 7 Washington Commander. Moving along here at number 6. This might surprise some. And for me, at one point, I had him a lot higher, but I had to think of where he was at this point in his career. Nevertheless, I think he was the second biggest free agent signing for the Washington Commanders this offseason. And I'm talking about linebacker Bobby Wagner. This guy really needs no introduction. If you know football, you know that Bobby Wagner's been one of the mainstays as far as a linebacker in this league. When he was in Seattle, he was an all-everything linebacker. And I mean, this guy has 9 Pro Bowls under his belt, 6 first-team All-Pro selections. Those are Canton Hall of Fame numbers, folks. He will be a first-ballot Hall of Famer when he hangs it up. Hopefully it's not anytime soon, and he still played at an effective rate last year. At times, yes, it's tough for him to cover receivers or backs coming out the backfield, but hopefully they won't have to do that this year with him. And they let him be what he is. He's a leader. He's a leader of men. And I think that his signing for the Commanders was, if not the top free agent signing, it's the number 2 free agent signing. And for me, it was the second free agent signing. So I have Bobby Wagner at number 6. The top free agent signing for me, and it just happens to fall right here, and he's the 5th best Washington Commander, and that's Frankie Louvu. Let me tell you that this guy is a havoc wreaker. I mean, and this is what this defense has been devoid of for a long time, especially at the linebacker position, is a guy that can cause turnovers, a guy that creates sacks. He's one of the best blitzing linebackers in all of the NFL. He has over 20 sacks over his career, and I think that he's just starting to blossom. I mean, he's been playing really good lights-out football over the last 2 seasons when he was in Carolina, but I think now you're going to see this guy really come into his own, and I think this year Frankie Louvu gets his first Pro Bowl nod. I really believe that he's going to have that kind of impact for the Washington Commanders defense and the new Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr. led defense. So for me, at number 5 on this list is Frankie Louvu. All right, so here we go now. It's starting to get juicy. The number 4 player on my list for the Washington Commanders is Sam Cosmi. I think this lineman last year, if it wasn't for the total dysfunction across the board within the organization, naturally they went through ownership change. The coaching situation was not steady at all. But I think through it all, Sam Cosmi, for my money, probably had the best season of any Commander. If you really look at the numbers and you watch tape like we do in this business, this guy was dominant. I mean, he really was. And I thought that he was worthy of getting a Pro Bowl nod, but naturally with the record and, just the way the season unfolded for this team, a lot of turmoil and chaos, he missed out on that. But I think this year, Sam Cosmi definitely will get his first Pro Bowl nod for the Washington Commanders along that offensive line, and he's going to be an anchor for them and a staple for them for a long time if things go well. So at number 4 on this list, I have Sam Cosmi. All right, at number 3, I have Daron Payne. Daron Payne has been an anchor in the middle of the defense for Washington. He makes one half of their dynamic duo at tackle with him and John Allen, really causing problems for opposing offenses. And it's a shame that they haven't had the help around them to really be able to highlight and spotlight all the great things that they can do on the football field. And I think that you'll see that this year. So for me, Daron Payne, who has 1 Pro Bowl appearance under his career, and that came in 2022, Daron Payne is the number 3 ranked Commanders player for me. Number 2, I just mentioned him. It's his cohort right next to him on that defensive line, and that's John Allen. Both these guys came from Alabama, won a national championship while they were there, and they've really performed well together here. I know they had their one little brief spat, public eye, but, these guys are great friends. They played together for a long time. Those things will happen. But I think that incident in Dallas, I think it made them better, and I think it made them more dominant as a duo. And I think they're going to continue to do that. I think John Allen is a guy that was a little frustrated last year, as he should have been, and he spoke out about some things. Well, it's a fresh start for him. It's a fresh start even for Daron Payne and for all these teammates that he played with. And I think John Allen's going to have another big year. The one thing you can say about John Allen is outside of his rookie year, where he played five games, and I think he had that Liz Frank injury to his foot, that, team put him on injured reserve. Outside of that, every year since the previous, 5-6 seasons, he hasn't missed a game. So this is a guy that is durable, he's consistent, and he's going to show up and play hard. And that's why I have John Allen as my number 2 Washington Commander. My number 1 Washington Commander for the 2024 season, and frankly, he's been the face of this franchise since he's been here. I got drafted out of Ohio State in the 3rd round, and I remember in Richmond in training camp, I remember telling some of my colleagues, man, who's the kid from Ohio State? Because he's killing these guys. No one could cover him. And they had a couple Pro Bowl corners that couldn't stay with him back then. And you saw something special. And I don't think Washington really truly understood what they were drafting. I think that they knew they were going to get a really good guy who was known to be a special teams ace when he was at Ohio State, and a guy that, when he was on the field with Ohio State, he produced. But you have to think of the receivers that he was playing with. There were 3 other first-round draft pick receivers that he had to play behind at Ohio State. So once he got his opportunity to be a lead guy in Washington, he's produced. I mean, he's had 4 1,000-yard seasons, and this guy is catching passes. He's caught passes from 10 different quarterbacks? I mean, you think about if he could have played the bulk of his career so far with the same quarterback, what kind of numbers he really would have posted. Just not 1,000-yard seasons, which is still not chopped liver to do, but to do that with different quarterbacks throwing you the ball, that's difficult, because you have to understand, each quarterback has a way they deliver the ball. They have, a certain trajectory on the ball, a certain spiral, whether they're left-handed, whether they're right-handed. So for this guy to have to do this, let alone do it under different coordinators almost every year, it's been a different coordinator, he has no stability. He's had no stability for the better part of his career. So hopefully he gets that now, and you can see him in his prime, seeing him post ridiculous numbers. So for me, I have Terry McLaurin, who has 1 Pro Bowl appearance, and that came back in 2022. So the one thing that I do want to say about this list is obviously it's fluid and it can change, and everybody has a difference of opinion. This is my list, it's my show, so I can put it on there, of course. But I will say this too, and to not take away from any of these gentlemen, but Zach Ertz, 3 Pro Bowls. Bobby Wagner, 9 Pro Bowls. You have to really go back and think that when we're talking about the best player for a franchise, the face of a franchise, only having 1 Pro Bowl in 5 years, that's not a knock on his game. It's just a knock on what the organization has been, how it's presented itself to this player. And it's almost been unfair for Terry. It's almost been unfair for John Allen, for Daron Payne. These are really good high-end football players. But the thing is, winning will get you Pro Bowl looks. Winning will get you respect around the league, and Washington just hasn't had that, and I think these guys have suffered for that. I do think that their game is worthy of more than 2 to 3 Pro Bowl appearances, but collectively, amongst them, they have 4. So that tells you how far this organization has been behind the 8 ball, and hopefully they can correct that this year. So I just wanted to come on, my friends, and put together a quick top 10 Commanders list. Let me know your thoughts. You can email me at lakelewisjr@gmail.com, or you can email me at lakelewisjr@sportsjourney.com. Let me know your thoughts on this list. What would you change? You can post it on social media. I will talk about it here, and I'll repost your stuff on social media as well. So once again, folks, you can follow me on social media at Lake Lewis Jr. on all platforms. And then you can subscribe to the podcast on all major audio platforms, as well as on YouTube if you'd like to watch this. So we've got a lot of stuff coming up. I'm going to give you my top 10 draft picks, as of Wednesday right here on the podcast. I'm going to tell you who I think goes as far as 1 through 10 in this year's NFL draft. And hopefully for the Washington Commanders, they get the number 2 pick right this time. They nail it. The last time they had the number 2 pick, it started off great with my guy, Robert Griffin III, RG3. Was the NFL Rookie of the Year, and then things just fell apart. We know about the injury, and we know about the coaching changes, and it wasn't meant to be. But hopefully this year for the 2024 draft, the Washington Commanders nail their draft pick. And for me, I think it's Jaden Daniels. I think that that's where they're going to go. I'd be surprised if they don't take him, but obviously things can change over the next 3 weeks. Jaden Daniels was in the building today. He'll be there tomorrow, as well as Drake May coming in from North Carolina. He'll be there tomorrow and then Wednesday. And I think that they're going to settle the dust. They're going to make a decision on one of these 2 guys on where they're going. But once again, I'm still saying, and I'm holding this. Nothing's going to make me change it from anything I'm hearing from anyone there. But I think it's Jaden Daniels. I truly do. So, as always, my friends, appreciate you spending about 20 minutes with me on today's podcast. As always, have a good one. Be safe. And I'll see you real soon. Take care.